In this video, I'm going to look at ways of putting figures into these gallery settings that were drawn last week at the Portrait Gallery. So we were in the Great Hall where things were very dark and almost monochromatic, and then upstairs in the light-filled, colourful galleries at the top. I produced a couple of drawings. Here, putting a figure into that Great Hall monochrome space, moving things around a little bit and adding a little bit of colour, but trying to maintain that monochrome atmosphere of the Great Hall space. And in the second one, I've worked with another figure, this time someone viewing the paintings, and I've worked in colour, and I've again taken part of the composition that I made in the gallery and used it as a setting for the standing gallery visitor. Begin this process, as you will also in the studio, by putting down the figure. So you'll be working with Hope, who's going to be both gallery attendant and visitor to the gallery. And I've taken an image from the internet of a seated gallery attendant. And I'm just putting her down in the middle of the page. So what I'm hoping you can do in the studio is a certain amount of almost unprepared composition. So this is my drawing from the Great Hall. I'm thinking I might put the figure in the middle of those two statues, busts, but I'm going to need to move them apart and rearrange that information. I'm also aware of where the floor is. I made a line where the floor met the wall, and that's not really on my page with my seated museum attendant, gallery attendant. So I've made those sculptures a bit larger. I've got a bigger one in the foreground, which is in front of my museum attendant, and a smaller one behind. I'm working on grey paper, and I want to keep this sort of more atmospheric quality. So I'm smudging things and getting down both the figure initially plus the setting, and working back and forth between the two of them to see how much definition I want to bring out. It's grey paper, so I've used some white chalk, and that's allowing me to get much more contrast into the marble busts. And I'm trying to have a bit less contrast on the figure of the attendant. So I'll leave this one in a moment and perhaps come back with some colour at a later stage. The second setting of the colourful upstairs galleries, for this one I'm going to work again from a reference, an online reference of a standing figure. So I thought I'm going to use the corner of that room. So although I did a drawing in the Portrait Gallery of quite a lot of the room, I'm going to set this figure, I've got a portrait arrangement to my piece of paper, and I'm going to set the figure against a smaller portion of that background. I put the figure down in colour because this is going to be a more colourful composition. And as I've described with the previous drawing, once I've got figure down, something of the setting down, the process then really is very much moving back and forth between the two of them. How much do I define the figure? How much contrast and colour do I put into the figure? How much do I put into the background? And really what I'm trying to judge is what's the balance and what will stand out and what will be less definite or eye-catching. And then as a final stage, I thought I'd add a little bit of colour, but very much limited colour, to this more monochrome subject of the figure in the Great Hall. So I've stuck with browns and blues, replacing some of the blacks with dark browns and the lighter colours with creams and off-whites. So there they are, the two drawings, figure into gallery, back into gallery.